everyone, and welcome to this Ask the Expert session, Accelerate Cloud Automation and Conversational Bot Development. This is a continuation of the conversations related to Breakout 43. I will give you a quick introduction, and then we will send it off to our experts. Please use the Q&A box to ask your questions. Questions will appear once we have put them through our queue, and our experts will answer verbally, and we'll also put some resources in the chat for you. We will be recording the session on our side, and it will be available on demand post-event. We kindly ask that you not record on your side. Also, please help our moderators and do not spam the chat. Lastly, we ask you adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. I am sharing it here, and it will also be shared in chat. And with that, we'll get started. We'll start with Jack.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Hi all, so welcome to the session. We've got the next 30 minutes with yourselves to ask as many questions as you'd like relating to the new news that we've just been announcing in the previous breakout. So I just wanted to do a quick recap of a couple of lines just to keep you all familiar with what we've just discussed, and then we'll do around the room and we'll just introduce some of our subject matter experts. So first of all, we started with introducing the evolution of Power Virtual Agent. So we're bringing a new unified canvas that brings a ton of new capabilities from rich multimedia responses, variable management with PowerFX, telephony and speech authoring bots, and a lot more. And then we had Stephen that also introduced how we're taking Power Automate to the next level with helping with unattended RPA and making it even easier for Azure, some additional capabilities with integrations with Power Apps, Process Advisor, and even the ISV program, embed SDK program as well. So that's just a quick recap. Okay, so we'll just go around the room and then please do submit your questions and we'll ask them and we'll answer them as they come in. So first of all, I'm Jack Robotham. I'm the Power Virtual Agents Product Marketing Manager. So my area of expertise is kind of the messaging and what does this product mean to you and how can you use it in your organization. We'll go to Stephen to start.
Great, thanks. So hi everybody, my name is Stephen Siciliano. I lead the Power Automate product here at Microsoft. So everything RPA, connectors, AI builder, and cloud flows that we have. Hopefully everybody saw the session just before this. Really excited to go deeper with any questions you may have.
Excellent, thank you, Stephen. And we'll go to Gary.
Yeah, sure, great. So hi everyone, my name's Gary. I'm a principal PM on the Power Virtual Agents team. My key area of focus is the authoring experience, and so the features that you've just seen around variables, PowerFX, rich responses, etc., are all the areas that I'm focused on.
Brilliant, thank you very much. We'll go to Michael now.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Michael. I'm from the Power Virtual Agents team, and my area of expertise is particularly the telephony functionality that was announced at Build.
Thank you. Mustafa?
Hi everyone, I'm Mustafa Razak, Program Manager on the Power Automate team, mostly on the RPA front, and happy to share about the new hosted RPA capability that we are shipping right now.
Thank you. Rakesh?
Hi, I'm Rakesh. I'm a PM on the Power Automate product team. I focus on the ISV integrations and the embed capabilities we just announced.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, Dwayne.
Yes, my name's Dwayne Robinson, and I am a program manager working on conversational AI in conjunction with the bot framework and Power Virtual Agents. And I work specifically with customers, field, and I'm the one that kind of takes in all your feedback and gets it prioritized. So good to be here.
Very much. Okay, so we've got a good balance between subject matter experts for Power Virtual Agents, intelligent chatbots, and also low-code automation as well. So I can see there's a couple of questions trickling in as well. So we'll start with the first one by Mariah. Oh, Mariah, yeah. So this is going to go to Gary. Is it possible to send proactive messages with a bot built in Composer?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of answers to that. So proactive messaging is something that you can do today with the Bot Framework SDK and standalone composer, and is something that we are starting to enable within Power Virtual Agents in some limited scenarios. We do have on our backlog, and this is another great signal for us to enable more broad proactive messaging support. And what you'll hopefully see over the sort of coming months, potentially not within this particular release, but potentially after that, is once we bring in the contextual triggering and event triggering, then we will hopefully be able to unlock more of those scenarios where your bot can both respond to external events and as a result then send out a proactive message.
Thank you very much, Gary. Hopefully that answers your question. And then we've got one more kind of a mix of Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate. So will you be able to use Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate with Microsoft Bookings? Stephen, would you like to take that?
Yeah, happy to help with that one. So we don't have a built-in connector to Microsoft Bookings today, but you can connect to any Graph API using Power Automate, which once you have a Power Automate flow set up, you can then use it from Power Virtual Agents. So it is a little bit of additional work. You have to read the documentation online for the Bookings Graph API. I've done it myself. The documentation for Graph is pretty straightforward if you have a little bit of familiarity working with APIs. So yeah, if you go to the documentation, read about the Graph API for Bookings, you can use that in your flow and then call that from Power Virtual Agent. So not quite as convenient as it could be with a built-in connector, but really our strategy is that we're going to build as many connectors as we can. I think recently we even crossed 700 connectors. So even the build session that we just saw that was pre-recorded is a little bit out of date. We're continuing to build more, and even though we build a lot of connectors ourselves, we still are a completely open ecosystem. So if you want to build your own connector, you want to connect to any API that's out there, you can do that too. And we offer that flexibility. Plus, I think one of the things that I mentioned in the connector ecosystem is you can bring your own custom code even as you're building out connectors. So lots of exciting capabilities there. But yeah, for booking specifically, no built-in connector today.
Excellent, thank you. And Stephen, you touched on the Graph API. I'd love to just, if you could share some examples to how maybe that's being used to unlock even more additional data across your estate in your ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a great question. So today we have, I don't know, maybe about a dozen connectors out of box that connect to Graph, and those work with everything from the obvious things like email and calendaring, but they can also do things like manage security groups and Office 365 modern groups. They can work with data in Excel or in SharePoint or in those other systems of record that you have. So really anything that's in the realm of Microsoft 365, the data for Microsoft 365 is exposed through Microsoft Graph. So productivity scenarios that you have for your company, for your colleagues, all of that data, including Microsoft Teams, for example, we're here today using Teams to run this session. Teams itself has Graph APIs that you can use to orchestrate whatever types of processes you want to run from inside of the client. So yeah, it's really, if you think about it, if it's data in Microsoft 365, Graph almost certainly has a way to work with that, and then you can use it inside of your Power Platform solutions.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Stephen. So we've got one more question, and we're going to direct this one to Dwayne, which is, how is Power Virtual Agents licensed?
Yes, so Power Virtual Agents is actually, there's really two different licensing mechanisms. One that is a free license that you can use with Teams. It will, you have some limitations there, and just in general, be aware that you'll have just the standard connectors in Power Automate and some limitations around that. I'm going to post some links in the chat as well, so as to kind of follow up on those limitations. However, typically the way that we license Power Virtual Agents is actually that we have this concept of a session. And if you understand what a session is a unique conversation up to 100 turns or 60 minutes. So once you exceed either a new conversation ID or a new conversation, then the next thing that you will run into is you will have the limits, which would be the 60 minutes or the 100 turns. And again, I'll post up something here shortly in the chat just to answer this question with additional data. You can definitely go check that out. And I would also add that we did announce a promotional licensing for Power Virtual Agents just recently. So if you haven't looked at those, that pricing guide, the link that I share will have information about the new pricing. So awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. And there's one more question that I'd like to lead back to you, Dwayne, and it's around scenarios. So one of the customers asks, can Power Virtual Agents be used for sales and marketing scenarios?
Yeah, so no problem. Yeah, so for sales and marketing, it's not an issue for you to use it in that capacity. What we've seen is we actually see a lot of implementations with Power Virtual Agents around additional product information. So we have a lot of manufacturers and brands that are using Power Virtual Agents to help answer questions about products, even be able to take different opportunities that we've seen and be able to take that and bring it to bear to be able to get like in touch with a live agent. So even if we can't answer the question directly within Power Virtual Agents chat, being able to go all the way through. So we see a lot of that kind of use case, but it's definitely not limited to that only, but definitely you can use it in that capacity.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly follow up on that answer as well. So I alluded to this just a couple of minutes ago, but let me expand on this a little bit. So I mentioned that we had contextual events and triggers coming to the platform. And what that would allow you to do is to receive external events from numerous different places and then respond to them using the bot. So today you're used to triggering your bot with a user sending in a message. But once we have contextual events and triggers, what you'll actually be able to do is customize the web chat component that's on your website, for example, so that maybe something happens on the page, and therefore what you can do then is send a custom event to the bot to have the bot then react to that. And it's not just limited to events from web chat. You can have those events being sent from sort of any other endpoint as well. And so I think once you have that capability, it really does broaden the possibilities and the use cases that you can use your bot for.
Yeah, it's actually a great call out, Gary. One of the things that we've actually seen in the use case around using in marketing and sales, just be aware that when you embed your web chat in, you want to think about that whole concept of the session we were talking about before. And one of the things that we have found that we want, we tell people to make sure they take a look at is making sure that you maintain the conversation ID through page refresh, because you'll lose the context of the conversation as someone navigates through. So it's just a common mistake we do see in these particular scenarios, and it'll help please your user if they don't have to restart the conversation every time they refresh the page or navigate around. So just food for thought as you move into those scenarios.
Thanks for sharing. And I think the one last point to add to that is that data integration lens when you use Power Virtual Agents for scenarios like sales and marketing. And I want to make the connection to Rakesh here that helps work on cloud flows, just because Power Automate plays such a pivotal part in being able to use chatbots or Power Virtual Agents with your broader ecosystem for marketing and sales scenarios. So Rakesh, I'd love to get some of your perspectives of, how has Power Automate been used to, really bring in that sales and marketing data to drive automation and reduce the time of effort of manual processes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the key advantage with the Power Platform is that if we think about cloud flows or automations as a horizontal layer that powers different Power Platform product. So if you build an automation, then you could have it manually triggered from a mobile app or from a button flow, or you could have it be invoked from a Power App. Could be a model or canvas-driven app, or it could be through a virtual agent. So basically, the same flow can be powered through multiple user interfaces, so that you build once and you reuse it multiple places. So that's the for a core value prop that we believe helps us differentiate between all other vendors in the space.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think that was a very good answer across all the boards. So thank you. So we've got one question. I think it's maybe leading more into the Power Automate lens. So from Doug is, I'm able to connect to an API to extract some specific reports, but I've got an Excel in an old format from this source. Can I use Power Automate to handle these XLS files?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So to answer specifically the reason why, it's because the XLS format is a monolithic binary format that honestly isn't very safe to run in a cloud environment. So the Excel graph APIs, that we were just talking about a few minutes ago, those only work with the new XLSX format, which is much safer to run inside of a cloud service like Microsoft Graph or like Power Automate. So those APIs do only work for the new file format, not for the the old prior to 2007 XLS format. Now, that being said, Power Automate does actually come with a capability that allows you to work with programs on your own machine that can do anything that you can do in a program, which means that you could use Power Automate for desktop, which is what we often call RPA bots, as a way to extract data from one of those legacy file formats, and then you can convert it to a new file format that you can then upload and use in the cloud, or you can just work with that data directly on your desktop using Power Automate Desktop's RPA bots. So that really enables you to work with any type of data, anything that you have on your machine. You can run that scenario for your own purposes. So you're right, the cloud APIs don't support that file format, but at the end of the day, Power Automate for desktop is kind of an escape hatch. It lets you run anything that you want on your machine, including those other file formats, or even Excel macros, right? Those definitely are not safe to run in a cloud environment, but you can run them locally. And when you do, Power Automate can work with that process.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Stephen. So there you go. There's your solution to being able to work with those sorts of files. So we've got one question. I'm going to direct this to Gary, and it's from Jeremy. So it's a bit of a long one. My team wants to use conversational bots to schedule, reschedule, and cancel video shoot times with our team for new product releases to provide a single place for teams in our company to get these scheduled. Can the cloud automation look at one of my team members' calendars and determine an available time a certain amount of weeks prior to the new product release date?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is another great example of why we're talking about both Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents inside this same Ask the Expert session, because it's another example of where the two products marry up perfectly. So as Stephen has been referring to, the Graph APIs will provide you with access to providing that you've got the right permissions to the calendar to determine the next best available times for one or more individuals, but you can use your bot to effectively act as the UI. I think that the way that we often describe it to people is you can think of your bot as the UI, and then you separate out your business logic into something into Power Automate. So you can actually use the two together. So Power Automate would help you access those calendars, determine the next best available time, return that data back to Power Virtual Agents, and then send the appropriate messaging back to your users. And that can be a multi-turn, multi-stage conversation where you can go back with some maybe one or more options. Another feature that we are bringing to Power Virtual Agents, it's not in the preview today, but it will be there ahead of general availability later this year, is the ability for you to have a question node within your bot, which is dynamically driven. So today you have to put in your choices at authoring time, where you can ask the user a question and say, please pick from one of these options. But one thing we have seen in the past, certainly with Composer and Bot Framework bots, is exactly what you're asking, right? I go and find some appropriate times on a calendar. I come back and I provide them to the user and ask them to select one of those times, if any of them are appropriate. And we'll be unblocking that capability as part of the new Power Virtual Agents canvas.
Thank you very much, Gary. Okay, so I've got one question here from Doug. Probably I'm going to direct this to Stephen. It's just shifted. Let me just find it. So what's the concept of a bot in the Power Automate platform? I think Doug's looking for some clarification on the types of flows and just understanding kind of what is that ecosystem.
Yeah, so we definitely can do a little bit cleaner job of using these terms. So the flow, and we have a few different types of flows. The flow is a little bit like the script. It's the description of the set of actions that it's going to go and do. So for a desktop flow, for example, I might have a script that says, launch Excel, open the file with a certain file name, add a column, save the file as a different file format. So that would be the desktop flow. The bot is the runtime environment of that thing. So think of it as the program on your computer that looks at the script and actually does it on your machine. So a bot does something, right, on your computer that's been defined in a desktop flow. Power Automate for Desktop is the name of the program that you author your desktop flows in. And there's actually, for cloud flows, you don't really have bots because we just run those in our cloud service, in a multi-tenant way. So there's really no bots involved when you're running in the cloud. But you're running on the desktop. The bot is, it's really, think of it as the environment that you are actually running the script in. So yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but that's how we think about those different terms.
Excellent. If I may jump and give kind of a short definition of an RPA bot, think of it like the process of running a desktop flow at a given time. You can actually understand it as is.
Excellent, thank you very much. So I'm going to direct a question to Michael. So Michael, what can we do, say, if we have a text bot today and we'd like to enable that to be able to be called by telephony?
Right, yeah, thanks for the question. So the bots, so what we announced at Build, as you could have seen in the session, right, is really sort of a multi-modality support for the bots, right? And so what it means is that now the same bot that you have used for your text interactions, you can simply go and assign a phone number to the bot inside of the UI, right? You will have to go to Azure Communication Services to acquire the phone number, but then you can come into the PBA and simply connect it to the phone number. After you do that, the bot will work out of the box, right? The same bot that you have had for messaging. In some cases, though, you will have to optimize, or you will want to optimize for telephone interaction via voice. And so what you can do is you can enter some speech variant for example, let's say you send an image, right, which will not render in a voice bot. So you can instead of that, you can just provide a description or an alternative explanation. And you can also use SSML or speech synthesis markup language to make the bot sound more, to enter some customization of the text, right, to make it more personable. Just like you can change the whole voice font of the bot in the settings.
Thank you very much, Michael. So now we've got one question for the Power Automate team. So I think this is going to go to Mustafa, and I think this is going to lead you to the on-premise data gateway, but you can confirm for me. So would it be possible to marry the bot with Power Automate to manipulate an on-premise resource? For instance, let's say I wanted to have my bot talk with a lead dev. Once the lead was verified, the bot would restart a Windows service for the lead and tell them it's restarted successfully.
So I'm not perfectly sure to understand correctly the question, but I will jump and give an answer here. So really the goal of Power Automate for Desktop is being able to run desktop automation using on-premise machines that have access to your on-premise resources. We have two ways to actually do that and integrate with your on-premise resources. We have the data gateway, which is one way to connect your machine with Power Automate and be able to connect your cloud and your on-prem resources. But we've also invested recently on what we call direct connectivity, which removes the need of having the data gateway all up, and you have the ability to just set up your on-prem machine to be directly connected with the cloud and also connected with your on-premise resources. So being able to manipulate your on-premise resources from a machine that is either connected to the cloud through Power Automate with our hosted capabilities or your own on-prem machines, that's totally doable. Now I see another part of the question related to an example where you have a lead dev, you have a bot that could talk to a lead dev. I'm not sure if we can get some more information about this second question here.
Yeah, so whoever wrote that question, please do add some more context and we can come back to Mustafa to provide some more information on that. So we've got a bit more of a technical one from Charles here. So is there a way, and we'll focus on Power Automate just because that's our subject matter experts for today. So is there a way for Power Automate to pre-process validation rules such as business rules, mandatory fields, data types, etc., before being inserted into an SQL database or front-end solution, Angular or back-end C#? So anyone from the Power Automate team? Stephen, it looks like.
Yeah, happy to take a stab at that one. So Power Automate allows you to build some fairly advanced business logic. So you can have, multiple rules and conditions. We have a visual condition builder that you can use to, say like, if this field is defined and that field is greater than Y, or that other field is less than Z, all of those rules can be defined inside of a Power Automate flow. We also have the expression language, which can do, even more advanced calculations and formulas, just like what is inside of Excel. So you absolutely can build that custom logic inside of a Power Automate flow. And then, prior to the data being written to SQL, and then the flow can write it into SQL. One of the other things that's interesting is we also support the ability to construct Power Query queries inside of Power Automate. So if you have experience using Power BI or Power Query in Excel, you can use those same expressions, and Power Automate can use that logic when it's working with data inside of a SQL as well. So there's a couple different options that you have, but you can absolutely use Power Automate as a pre-processing step for uploading or saving data into a SQL database.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we've got one question from Claudine, and I'm going to direct this to Michael. Will it be possible to move a bot created on Teams to the web app version so that I can get the ability to expose the bot to additional platforms? My understanding is that today this is not possible.
Right. Yeah, great question. So one thing I wanted to just clarify, right, is today PBA has a Teams app where you can author the bot in Teams on Dataverse Lite. And then the second version is you can author bots in the web app on the full Dataverse version, right? Now, it's correct that the bots that you sort of author in your in your Teams app can't be authored easily on the web app. But that should not prevent you from exposing it to additional platforms, right? So what I understand by the question is that there's a question whether I can expose it to additional channels like web chat, or I can put it into Facebook Messenger. You are absolutely able to do that even when authoring the bot from the Teams app. So that shouldn't be the blocking problem. But just to answer the other question, it's a good feedback. We are looking always to improve the authoring experience, and we will consider sort of making that transition more seamless.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Michael. And then we're coming close to the end of the session, so maybe one of the last questions from Maya to Gary. What is the most suitable data source to analyze the KPIs of a chatbot? Currently, I use application insights query in Power BI, but I don't know if it's the best way.
Yeah, so great question. And there are multiple ways today that you can get access to analytics for your bot. So the first thing I will say is we are working hard to plan improvements to the analytics within Power Virtual Agents itself so that you don't have to sort of mine that data. And we'll continue to evolve that. But application insights that you're using already is a great tool. And it's something that works for both the bots that you may have built in the past using the SDK and Composer, but it also works today with Power Virtual Agents as well. The great thing about application insights is once it's there, you can do what you're doing, which is, pull the data down from application insights and analyze it using Power BI, make that available to other people within the organization. But you can also, depending on the audience, jump straight into the Azure portal, run Kusto queries, create custom dashboards. We will be surfacing an additional node inside of Power Virtual Agents as well to allow you to log custom events into application insights. That's something that's available today with the Composer integration, but we will make that available in the new canvas as well. And then from there, from application insights, you can obviously use things like the continuous export feature to get that out into your own, maybe a data lake, and actually then do some more, some further processing on the data yourself there. So it's a great option.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Gary. So we're close to the time now. So I just want to say a quick thank you to all of the subject matter experts that have joined today to share their experiences, and also all of you on the call. You've asked some fantastic questions, technical and much broader, and they've been great to hear. So just to close, there's some fantastic sessions to follow. You can see them on the screen now. So please do, if you're interested in learning a bit more, you can see them on the screen. We've got join Gary and Michael for the What's New for Microsoft's conversational AI for Power Virtual Agents. We've also, I think we've got Mustafa doing the seamlessly scale unattended RPA for Power Automate and hosted RPA bots. And I won't read the rest, but you can get a lot more content using those links. So thanks again for the time. We can't wait to see what you can achieve with the new announcements for Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. And we'll see you at the next event.